I still remember the exact second my life cracked open, the kind of moment that feels quiet on the outside but deafening in your chest. I was standing in front of a wrought iron gate so tall it blocked out the streetlight behind me, my hands shaking my stomach, screaming my pride already long gone. I wasn't there to ask for a miracle. I wasn't there to make a scene. I just wanted food. One plate. One chance to make it through the night. And I had no idea that behind that gate was the truth I'd been running from my whole life, the truth that would force every person who ever looked down on me to rethink everything they thought they knew. At 19, I had already learned what it feels like to be invisible. Hunger does that to you. It shrinks you, folds you inward, makes you feel like you're taking up space you don't deserve. I had been sleeping wherever the ground was dry enough under closed kiosks beside shuttered shops, telling myself each night that tomorrow would be different, even when I didn't really believe it. People walked past me every day, some pretending not to see me, others staring like I was a problem they wished would disappear. And yeah, after a while you start believing them. You start thinking maybe you really are the problem. That night had been colder than usual. The kind of cold that crawls under your skin and stays there. I hadn't eaten properly in 2 days, unless you count a crust someone tossed aside and a cup of rainwater I caught with my hands. My head felt light, my legs weak, my patience gone. I remember leaning against a broken stall and thinking, this is how people fade out quietly without anyone noticing. A woman packing up her vegetables took pity on me and handed me something barely edible, not much, but it was kindness, and kindness can keep you moving when food can't. She told me about a mansion up the hill, said sometimes they gave leftovers, said it was worth a try. I almost laughed. People like me didn't belong up there. But hunger doesn't care about belonging. The walk uphill felt endless. Cars splashed water on my legs, strangers laughed, others crossed the street like I carried something contagious. I kept going. Not because I was brave, but because stopping felt worse. When I finally reached the gate, it looked unreal, like something out of a movie. Black iron gold accents, security lights glowing like watchful eyes. I knocked softly at first, then harder. A man answered from behind the gate, his voice sharp, annoyed. He looked me over like I was dirt on his shoe. "What do you want?" he snapped. "Sir, please," I said, my voice barely holding together. "I'm hungry. I just need something small." He laughed. Actually laughed. "You come beg food for this kind house? You think this is a shelter?" His words stung, but I stayed standing. Hunger had already killed my pride. "Even leftovers," I said. "I don't need money." He told me to leave. I didn't move fast enough. When I touched the gate to steady myself, he shoved my hand away like I'd committed a crime. I lost my balance, hit the ground hard. That was when the tears came quiet, embarrassing, unstoppable. He threatened to call the police, slammed the gate shut, locked me outside like I was nothing. And maybe to him, I was. I sat there on the pavement, hugging my knees, too tired to walk away, too empty to care anymore. I watched silhouettes move behind the mansion windows, people laughing, eating, living lives that felt impossibly far from mine. I remember thinking, maybe this is it. Maybe this is where my story ends outside someone else's gate. Then headlights cut through the darkness. A low engine hum rolled up the hill. The gate opened again this time, fast, respectful. A sleek car pulled in, and a man stepped out who didn't need to raise his voice to command attention. Even half-conscious, I could feel the shift in the air. The guard straightened instantly. The man's eyes landed on me, and instead of disgust, instead of irritation, I saw something else. Concern. Real concern. "Who is that?" he asked quietly. The guard stammered something about a stubborn beggar. The man looked at him, then at me, then back again. "You pushed her?" he asked. Silence. Then he said something I will carry with me forever. "You don't need details to be human. You need compassion." He walked toward me crouched so he wasn't towering over me. "Can you hear me?" he asked gently. I nodded, afraid to speak. My voice felt like it might break apart. "What's your name?" "Lena," I whispered. He told the guard to open the gate. Just like that. No debate. No hesitation. I tried to protest, said I was dirty, said I didn't belong inside. He smiled, not kindly in a pitying way, but firmly like someone correcting a lie. "No building is more important than a person," he said. "Come inside." Inside, the warmth hit me first. Then the smell of food. Real food. My legs nearly gave out. They sat me down and brought a plate piled with rice meat vegetables, water. I stared at it like it might disappear if I blinked. When I started eating, I couldn't stop the tears. Hunger does that, it breaks you open. The man watched quietly, his expression unreadable, like he was thinking about something far away. After I finished, he asked me to rest in the sitting room. I followed, still half expecting someone to change their mind and throw me back out. The room was beautiful high ceilings, soft lights, art lining the walls. And then I saw it. A photograph framed, lit perfectly. A man holding a little girl. The girl had the same dimple I did, the same eyes, the same small birthmark near her collarbone. My heart slammed against my ribs. I stood up, walked closer, my fingers trembling as they touched the glass. "This," I whispered, "this looks like me." Behind me, I heard his footsteps stop. When he spoke, his voice wasn't steady anymore. "That's my daughter," he said. "She disappeared 11 years ago." The room tilted. My breath caught. I asked her name. When he said it, my knees nearly buckled. It was the name my mother used to whisper when she thought I was asleep. I told him my mother's name. When it matched, the silence was unbearable. We talked for hours, or maybe minutes. Time didn't make sense anymore. I told him what I remembered: a small house, dancing laughter, a man who lifted me high. He listened like every word mattered. He told me about a misunderstanding, about fear, about a woman who ran to protect her child, and a man who spent over a decade searching. Two people, both wrong, both trying to do right. I told him how my mother got sick, how she died, how I buried her myself when I was 14. He cried openly, no shame, no restraint. Then he showed me proof: photos, missing posters, records of searches that never stopped. And finally he said it. "You're my daughter." I didn't scream. I didn't laugh. I just collapsed into him and cried like my body had been waiting for permission to fall apart. He held me like he was afraid I'd vanish again. For the first time in my life, someone held me without pushing me away. That night changed everything. Doctors came, clean clothes, a warm bed, family members arriving in shock and tears. And somewhere outside, the guard who threw me out sat alone, realizing how wrong a person can be when they decide someone else is worthless. I didn't feel anger toward him anymore. I felt something heavier: the truth. Here's the part people argue about. Was it fate? Was it luck? Or was it just delayed justice? I don't know. What I do know is this: the world judges fast. Too fast. We decide who matters based on clothes, on status, on where someone stands instead of who they are. And sometimes the person you push away is the one who is meant to change your life. So tell me this: if you had been that guard, would you have opened the gate? If you were walking past me that night, would you have stopped? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Argue if you need to. Share what you've seen, what you've lived. Because stories like mine don't just belong to me. They belong to anyone who's ever been underestimated, overlooked, or pushed aside and lived long enough to prove the world wrong.